She laughed when I stood up, a short, breathy sound, the kind people make when they're certain they've already won. "Your Honor," she said, gesturing toward me, "he insists on representing himself. He can't afford an attorney." Even her new husband chuckled, arms folded, chin lifted like a man who believes life will always tilt in his favor. The courtroom waited to see whether I would break. I didn't. I felt the weight of their eyes on me, judge, attorneys, spectators, but beneath it all, a calmness pooled inside my chest, a cold, measured quiet, the kind that comes right before a storm hits land. I didn't look at her. Not yet. I kept replaying the moment from 2 months earlier, the moment that brought me here, a moment I hadn't spoken about, not even now, while every whisper of this case was being dissected around me. The message, the man's voice, the half-finished sentence that shattered the foundation beneath my feet. I had been washing dishes when my phone buzzed, a simple notification, a voice note sent to her, but forwarded to me by mistake, a man's low whisper, "He has no idea. After the hearing, we can," the recording cut off. Silence. My silence. And then the first fracture of something I once believed was unbreakable. I didn't question it out loud. I didn't confront her. I just wiped the water from my hands and listened again. And again, letting the truth bleed through the static. Now I stood in a courtroom where she expected me to crumble. I breathed in, and finally lifted my head. The betrayal didn't arrive with drama. It arrived quietly, dripping in pieces like a leaking ceiling you ignore until the entire roof caves in. At first, I told myself it was work stress, or maybe I misheard the message. Maybe the whisper belonged to a coworker, or a cousin, but my mind knew. Long before I admitted it, it knew. The late-night client meetings, the sudden new wardrobe, the way she locked her phone, not once, not twice, but always, as if the password were oxygen and forgetting it meant death. Still, denial is a strangely comforting prison. I clung to it, until the morning I left for work and forgot my wallet. I walked back in, quiet steps on familiar tiles, and saw her, sitting at the dining table, smiling at her phone in a way she hadn't smiled at me in years. A soft, private smile, intimate, owned. She didn't hear me, didn't feel my presence, didn't sense the world shifting beneath her. She whispered, "See you tonight." My chest tightened, not from pain, from clarity. She had been building a life without me, brick by brick, while living off my loyalty. And I had been too blind, too trusting, too silent. That night, I lay beside her, pretending not to notice how she turned her back, as though facing me might ignite the truth she'd buried behind her ribcage. I stared at the ceiling, counted the cracks. I didn't confront her. People think revenge is loud, messy, chaotic. But real revenge, cold revenge, requires patience, observation, strategy. I let her keep lying, let her feel safe, because truth isn't a weapon until the moment you decide to use it. The investigation began with small steps: a phone bill quietly printed from her email, hidden contacts examined, deleted messages restored through backups she didn't know synced automatically. Every detail sharpened the blade. The man's name appeared often, too often. Late calls, short bursts of messages, and once, a hotel reservation receipt mislabeled as work photography retreat. I didn't react. I didn't scream. I didn't ask why. Instead, I rehearsed neutrality, measured expressions, calm nods, careful breathing. Inside, though, something cold and crystalline formed, an emotion too controlled to be rage, too sharp to be sorrow. I started collecting screenshots, timestamps, bank statements. Every night, she slept with her phone tucked beneath her pillow, unaware that the truth was already cataloged, numbered, and stored in a folder on my laptop labeled house maintenance. Meanwhile, I traced calls, mapped patterns, watched her leave the house at 10 p.m., claiming urgent work issues. I followed once, slowly, headlights off, heart steady. She parked 2 blocks away from the restaurant. He walked toward the car. They didn't kiss, not immediately, but their bodies recognized each other, as if gravity had been waiting. I watched her tuck her hair behind her ear, a gesture she used to do for me. I didn't move, didn't cry, didn't let my breath break. I just memorized the moment. The next morning she acted tired, said traffic kept her out late, kissed my cheek. I almost smiled. The thing about betrayal is this: once you see the truth, you stop reacting to the lies. Instead, you study them, like specimens under glass.
Weeks passed while she planned her exit, contacting attorneys, shifting funds, preparing to blindside me with divorce papers and demands. She underestimated only one thing. Quiet people aren't weak. We are architects of analysis and builders of traps. The evidence arrived neatly, cleanly, undeniably. Phone records, location logs, financial anomalies, and the DNA test I took, not for a child, but to confirm a different suspicion. The timeline she pretended aligned with our marriage didn't match biological reality. Her new husband, yes, new, had been in the picture long before she pretended he existed. Their marriage was already registered in another state, filed, stamped, recognized. She had married him before she told me she wanted a divorce. I didn't confront her at home. I waited. I waited until she dragged me into court to squeeze every drop of dignity and money from me. And then I stood up, calm, silent, prepared. Her attorney smirked. Her new husband looked bored. I walked to the center, opened the folder. The judge asked, "Do you have something you'd like to present?" I nodded, and without a word, handed the judge the packet. Printouts, timelines, certificates, messages, proof of bigamy, fraud, identity manipulation. He read, brows rising, eyes sharpening. Then he looked at her. "Ma'am," he said slowly, "would you like to explain this?" Her face drained of color. Her lips parted. I don't. A stammer, a tremor, a collapse. Her new husband stiffened, leaning forward, seeing, for the first time, the full architecture of her deceit. I remained utterly still, emotionless, because this wasn't the moment I discovered the truth. It was the moment she finally did. Her eyes darted to me, wide, pleading, terrified. She mouthed, "You knew?" I didn't blink. I simply watched her unravel, watched the lies she crafted crumble under the weight of evidence she never imagined I could gather. The judge spoke again. "This is a criminal offense. We must pause these proceedings and address the legality of your marriage, your financial claims, and the possibility of fraud against the court." The courtroom murmured, shocked, buzzing. She shook her head violently. No, he's manipulating, he's twisting. This isn't what it looks like." But every page screamed otherwise. Her new husband stood abruptly. "You told me he was abusive. You told me he cheated. You told me." She reached for him. He recoiled. And I remained exactly where I was. Still, detached, in complete control. When she finally looked back at me, eyes wet, voice broken, whispering, "Please, don't do this." I leaned forward slightly and said my first words of the day. "I didn't do anything." A pause. "You did." Her body crumbled like a paper figure left in rain, and I sat back, letting the consequences fall exactly where they belonged. They escorted her out, first gently, then firmly, as her legs buckled under the truth she had once weaponized. Her new husband didn't follow. He stayed rooted, stunned, staring at the pieces of a life he thought he stole, but never truly had. I gathered my documents, straightened them, placed them back into the folder. My hands didn't shake. The judge dismissed the court for recess, but I didn't linger, didn't gloat, didn't celebrate. I simply walked toward the exit, feeling nothing. No victory, no vindication, just clarity. Outside, the air felt colder, cleaner. For the first time in months, I inhaled without weight. She had tried to break me with deception. Instead, she revealed the truth about both of us. She had built her life on lies. I had built mine on silence. And silence is stronger. As I stepped out of the courthouse, I realized something simple, something final. I didn't need to win. I only needed the truth. And the truth destroyed her, more completely than I ever could. I walked away, and didn't look back, not even once.